Yesterday, we covered the hearing of Attorney General Jeff Sessions and his testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee. And I talked about this technique that Jeff Sessions used when he didn't want to answer questions about Trump. He would say so technique one was, I don't remember, I don't recall, I've forgotten what I remembered to not know about initially, if it ever happened. But what I can assure you is I never did anything wrong. That was technique number one. Technique number two was he would say, well, I want to respect the right of Donald Trump to at some future point maybe invoke executive privilege if he wants to, which didn't really make any sense because, as I told you yesterday, during hearings, the president has what's called executive privilege. If the president is testifying and he's asked about something, he can invoke executive privilege to avoid talking about certain things, serious things, as Donald Trump likes to say, including what he might consider to have been a confidential conversation between him and someone else. This can also be invoked by the president when other people are testifying, like Jeff Sessions, to conversations that they may have had with the president. Trump did not invoke executive privilege with regard to anything that Jeff Sessions was asked about on Monday or Tuesday, I guess it was. So Sessions was expected to answer questions that he was asked. Basically, every single time Sessions was asked about past conversations with Trump, he refused to answer because he was preserving Donald Trump's right to invoke executive privilege, maybe in the future, retroactively, if he wanted, which is not how executive privilege works. Sessions said it was a Department of Justice policy not to testify about conversations with the president. But when he was asked whether it's an actual rule, he didn't actually explain whether it was or wasn't. Here's just a clip of what went on at that hearing.
Senator, I'm protecting the president's constitutional right by not giving it away before he has a chance to view it. And secondly, I am telling the truth in answering your question in saying it's a long-standing policy of the Department of Justice.
Are those policies written?
Even and to make sure the president has full opportunity to decide these issues.
Can you share those policies with us? Are they written down at the Department of Justice?
I believe they are.
This is the appropriateness legal standard for not answering congressional inquiries.
It's my judgment that it would be inappropriate for me to answer and reveal private conversations with the president when he has not had a full opportunity to review the questions and to make a decision on whether or not to approve such an answer. One, there are also other privileges that could be invoked.
Sessions was there to talk about things related to Trump. That was the point of the hearing. Total gong show. And Jeff Sessions was trying to have it both ways. He was saying, I don't have the right to invoke executive privilege in order not to answer your question. And the president hasn't invoked executive privilege to prevent me from answering your question. But I'm going to refuse in the hypothetical case that Trump would have seen the questions ahead of time and might want to retroactively invoke executive privilege.
And it's not the case that Trump didn't have the opportunity to invoke executive privilege. This hearing was on the books for a little while.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to make a decision, and people are going to make assumptions and their own decisions based off of your decisions.
Of course.
So this doesn't really work.
And endless legal experts have said Jeff Sessions has no idea what he's talking about. Start with Asha Rangappa, associate dean at Yale Law School, who said executive privilege, even if it applies in this case, can only be invoked by the president. Sessions cannot preemptively invoke it on the president's behalf. Second, I'm not sure what Department of Justice policy has to do with this. DOJ policy is an internal executive branch regulation. It does not provide a legal shield against testifying in Congress when it is conducting an investigation as part of its oversight function, basically saying whether or not the policy was written down, as Jeff Sessions seemed unable to answer, it doesn't matter because it's not legally relevant to this type of testimony. Then we heard from Lisa Kern Griffin, law professor at Duke University, who said Sessions used the invocation of vague principles of confidentiality to his advantage. That's not how it works. In fact, General Sessions carefully avoided the phrase executive privilege and kept referring to confidentiality. This is similar to what occurred during the testimony of Admiral Rogers and Director of National Intelligence Coates. Lisa Kern also said that legally speaking, Sessions could be held in contempt of Congress for this. That's not going to happen. I don't think we have to really worry about that. But again, something that could happen. And also concurring with this were Samuel Gross, a law professor at University of Michigan, Diane Marie Ammon, law professor at the University of Georgia. All legal experts asked about this, Pat, said, this is bogus.
Right, because Jeff Sessions not only swore to tell the truth, he also swore to tell the whole truth.
That's
the
exactly
problem here,
right.
as we talked about yesterday, though, is it's hard to prove whether or not someone forgot or was able to remember something.
Very difficult to prove that legally. And here is Senator Heinrich talking to Aaron Burnett after the hearing about what happened.
Did you walk away from this trusting him more or not? That's the bottom line.
I walked away from this being highly concerned that there now seems to be a concerted effort by the administration to obstruct this investigation.
And so you think he was obstructing and impeding today, the Attorney General of the United States?
He wouldn't answer the most basic questions under oath, and we're not going to be able to get to the bottom of this entire matter unless we have honest answers from the administration.
There it is. Send me your thoughts. I'm on Twitter at @DPakman. The show is on Twitter @DavidPakman Show.